Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, paving your way to fantasy excellence, acting as your lead blocker to fantasy glory, making all your football-related fantasies come true. Happy late Thanksgiving for me. I was not able to join my co-host on Thanksgiving Day, but I was certainly thinking of him and all the RSJ faithful. I'm your host, Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself, who I feel like I haven't seen all that much lately, believe it or not. How you doing?
I know. A lot of days off apparently over there. No, I know. It's been a while since we got to link up, which is why I'm pumped. We got the show today. I'm doing well, looking on top of most of my matchups. Got a few things coming down to the wire. Need a solid A.J. Brown night tonight, but things are looking solid, my man. How are you doing?
I'm going to win one, going to lose one. My teams are walking train wrecks and have been for, I've been in free fall for 4 or 5 weeks now. There's one team I have where I could still make the playoffs, and that's the one I'm going to win in. The other one, you hate to throw in the towel, but I mean, the towel's thrown in. I'm not going to be that guy who doesn't have like a functional lineup or anything, because I hate people like that. But the writing's been on the wall for good old truth for quite a while there in that league.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our studs of the week. And as you established right before we went on the air, throw in the thumbs up sign, give it to us. One guy cemented his place as our stud of the week. There was not much in the 1 o'clock games. I would argue it was probably Trevor Lawrence before we hit the 4 o'clock games. But Josh Jacobs ran away with this, right? 220 yards, a couple scores, and maybe like 70 yards in the air. What was his final stat line?
Yeah, 229 rushing, 2 scores on the ground. Why not just add 74 yards on 6 catches through the air? So over 300 total yards on the day. Monster effort from Josh Jacobs. And crazily, like his 5th now, I believe, 30-plus point day. He's just running himself not only as the stud of the week, clearly for week 12, maybe the best pick in fantasy this year, given that he was like around 7, round 8 in our auctions. I mean, he probably didn't go for more than, $10-12 in yours? Like, the guy's an absolute monster, a true thoroughbred running back, one by every single measure. Monster day for Jacobs, and just yet another, and a great season for him. I think he's the runaway. I mean, the other nominations we had at one were maybe the story of the day, Mike White, going 22 of 28, 315 and 3 touchdowns. He was the second highest quarterback through 1 o'clock, ultimately enabling Garrett Wilson for 95 and 2 scores. What an absolute stud this guy is. 8 targets, 5 catches. He now averages 26.4 points per game with Mike White, 17.1 points per game with Joe Flacco, and 8.4 games with Zach Wilson. So it's just clear this was a Zach Wilson issue. The Jets, this was a really nice stat from Scott Barrett, Drew. I couldn't believe this one. Team leaders by passing yards per game in 2021 through 2022. The Jets are number 1 when they do not have Zach Wilson with 319 passing yards per game. The Chiefs are the next closest with 294. I couldn't believe that stat myself, but it's a well-called scheme. They have great
But they're 31st when he's in.
And they're 31st when he's in. Exactly. How crazy is that discrepancy? Clearly a Zach Wilson issue.
That's crazy, man.
But obviously great to see Mike White play so well out there in most waiver wires. But most importantly, the fact that Garrett Wilson has true low-end wide receiver 1 upside now. And you got Elijah Moore back from the dead. Great to see.
Yeah, I would say Trevor Lawrence had probably his best game maybe of his career.
Yeah,
I don't know if it is stat-wise, fantasy-wise, but I actually did catch the end of this game. A great drive at the end, and it was, I loved that they went for 2 and they won it at the end. What do you got to lose? You're like a 3-17, 3-8, something like that. Sure, go for 2. They did. The benefit outweighed the cost, and they came away looking great on that. And man, you never know, something like that might stay with him for a long time, and maybe we'll start to see what we've been hoping to see ever since he came into the league. That was a pretty awesome performance. He ended up 29 for 37, 321 and 3 touchdowns. And it's not written here in the headline, but he also did throw for that 2-point conversion that ended up winning the game. Great fantasy day for him. Great real football day for him too.
I was going to say, some of those windows he was squeezing it through, just 4th and 5, like big time throws, ballsy throws. You love to see it because it was definitely looking like he had bust potential. This might be that type of game, as you were alluding to, that really just turns around his career. Justin Herbert also having that 2-point conversion at the end of the game to win it. You love to see it. 28 fantasy points for him, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, and as mentioned, that 2-point conversion to put him at over 28 fantasy points on the week. A monster rebound. Good to see with Keenan Allen back. Herbert's looking like that guy that deserved to go as early as he had been.
Chris Godwin also with an excellent receiving game, 12 out of 13 for 110 and a touchdown. That was, I would say 12 of 13 targets. Had 110 yards, 1 touchdown. That was in stark contrast to his core mate, Mike Evans, who was targeted 9 times and only caught 2 for like 30 yards.
Yeah.
He was one of my negative wide receivers, so maybe we won't go over that as much. But that was a big difference between those two guys. And Tampa Bay, 5-6. Every team in that division below 500 right now.
So
anyway, so clear winner, Josh Jacobs, stud of the week. Let's get into stats that stand out. And we're going to start with one for quarterbacks that I don't even think should be on this list, but I'm going to read it because of the copies there. Sam Darnold, 11 out of 19 for 164 and a touchdown. Explain. Why do I care?
I only put it on here just because they won. I mean, they beat the Broncos. They clearly were a more competent offense. Donta Foreman had himself a real solid day when we get to running backs. But DJ Moore reviving from the dead. So he also did run for a touchdown as well. So Darnold ended up being right around 20 fantasy points on the day, as gross as it was.
All right, that's fair.
It just ultimately was a positive for the offense to have Darnold under center, which is so freaking nuts.
I will say, even though I'm raking you over the coals for him being on the list, I did see the touchdown he threw to DJ Moore. It was a nice pass.
Yeah,
it really was.
It was a seed. Yeah. Lamar Jackson also on the positive. Didn't have a great passing day, 254 and a touchdown, but did get those 14 carries, 89 yards. Murray as well. Kyler having a Konami day, 7 carries, 56 and a touchdown on the ground, in addition to 191 and 2 plus an int. That's, again, highlights how much of a cheat code these Russian quarterbacks are.
That's such a Kyler Murray stat line.
Like a gross passing day, but still getting to like 28 fantasy points just because he's zipping all over the place with his legs. So Konami code truly exists.
Speaking of guys who aren't getting to 28 fantasy points in a day, our one guy in the negative column, and I just had to throw him on just because he's so bad. But at this point, it's like kicking a dead dog.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. And he added, remember, he used to be quite the scrambler, 2 rushes for an additional 8 yards. In a completely one-sided game that they played and lost to the Sam Darnold-led Panthers. Man, he's so bad. Anyway, go ahead.
What a shocking, just disgusting season for the Broncos as a whole, but especially
to be fair, listen, I picked them to finish last in the AFC West, but I didn't think they'd be this bad.
It's sickening.
I thought they'd be like 8-9 or something like that.
Absolutely. Moving on to the running backs, and as we do again, that thumbs up, Wolfpack, would be so greatly appreciated. We're like about 15 of you here. We usually have like 30 or so live. So please do share, like, comment, retweet, all that good stuff, and keep helping us grow. If you're catching the replay, thanks so much. And if you enjoy it, please do consider subscribing as we plow forward to 3K. Running back wise, Chubb, nice solid day, 26 carries, 116 yards, and the score. Ho hum, the guy's the best running back in the league. So fun to watch. Nice day for Chubb against a good run D.
Brian Robinson had probably his best game in the NFL in his career. 18 rushes, 105 yards. He also was targeted 3 times, caught 2 for 20, and he scored a touchdown. And probably more importantly, he was wearing a really big hat in the locker room afterwards, which he says he knows a guy. So
I kind of need one. I kind of need one.
It's one of those things. It's like a created need. I never thought I needed one before, but now that I've seen it, I kind of got to have it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, I love it. Definitely fills the need once you know it exists. You got to get one. And the big part there, too, is Gibson, only 9 carries, 32 yards, did have 3 catches for 22, but it seemed like he was separating last week, had by far the dominant, out-carried him by over 9 last week. Looked like Gibson had finally separated, but nope. At this point, Robinson, 30 of the snaps to 26 for Gibson, 18 carries to just 9, and similar route share, not even that crazy separation, both seeing 3 targets. It definitely was the best day for Robinson. I also thought eyeball test-wise, he looked more explosive. Yeah. It makes sense. He's getting his legs under him after a catastrophic
After being shot in the legs.
Yeah, but it just definitely goes to show this backfield could be tough to project each and every week. If one week it's Gibson, the next it's Robinson. Who knows if anyone will clearly separate, but whoever's the leader each week is getting it done. It just is alternating who that's going to be.
Deontay Foreman. Yeah. Do you talk about Deontay Foreman? Speaking of a backfield where people are getting maybe one of the guys getting too many carries. Deontay Foreman, 24 rushes, 113 yards against the Broncos, who have a pretty stout defense, you have to admit. Chuba Hubbard, unfortunately, also had 17 carries at 65 yards. So obviously Foreman far more productive. But, I mean, you're talking about basically a 60-40 split there. Don't love that.
Yeah. And it's only going to work when it's a huge, 41 carries combined today. That's not going to be a possibility every week. You don't face the shitty Broncos every week. So it's good to see Foreman. Again, when he gets used, he crushes it. But definitely annoying that Hubbard was involved as much as he was. Gus Edwards, solid return to the field. 16 carries, 52 yards, and a score. Not a monster stat day. But the big thing was Drake was pretty much non-existent He only saw 2 carries, 1 target, compared to again the 16 for Edwards. Edwards playing 36 snaps compared to just 18 for Drake. And again, the workload discrepancy was so big between these guys. Edwards getting that touchdown as well, that ever valuable goal line work. Plus, they have the easiest fantasy playoff schedule for the running backs. So Gus Edwards in a good spot here, dropped in a lot of leagues, right around 50% right now. Go check your waiver wire. Gus would be a huge pickup at this point.
Rashad White filling in for lean Lenny Fournette. He was okay. Like, he rushed 14 times, 64 yards. So that was nothing to get too excited about. He did catch all 9 of his targets for 45 yards, which volume-wise, that's pretty nice. It's not like he broke anything. But, he filled in admirably well. I'm not sure that this is going to keep him the job or anything like that if and when Lenny comes back. What do you think?
I liked it. I mean, it wasn't, like you said, insane efficiency, but the fact that he played 62 of 69 snaps, pretty much an every down horse, all the third down and 2-minute work, most of the red zone and goal line work, looked really, really like decent. I agree with you. He didn't pop off the page, but showed he can handle all the work. Gio Bernard was activated today and didn't even sniff the field. So good to know Rashad White, if and when Fournette's out, is a true 3-down back. It's not going to be this timeshare. And I think he'll only continue to see that elevated. I thought it was a solid effort. I'm pretty encouraged by the underlying usage here.
Gio Bernard's presence anywhere is so annoying.
It always is, right? Remember Joe Mixon? It's just like, that's that one thing keeping him from being a bona fide running back 1 top 5 guy. Like,
this guy's going to sneak in and get a couple passes or what? Anyway,
couple touchdowns.
I digress.
Yeah, it's so true. Speaking of the Bengals backfield, Samaje Perine, similar to Rashad White, was the every down back, 56 of the 70 snaps going to Perine. He had 17 carries, 58 yards, and a touchdown. Also 35 yards and 4 catches through the air. So solid usage. That was, again, 17 carries and finished 3rd on the team in targets. So usage-wise, everything you'd want to see from Perine. Found the end zone as well. So solid, productive day for the fill-in here.
Latavius Murray dominating the Broncos backfield. There's not too much good to say about the Broncos, but he had a pretty good game. He rushed 13 times, 92 yards. It's a little over 7 yards a clip. That's not too bad. Got more carries than Marlon Mack by quite a lot.
13-2.
13-2. I mean, not a ton of carries. I mean, I guess they got down kind of early, and they were like, oh, we're going to just let Russ cook. And Russ could only get the oven up to like 60 degrees. So anyway, Murray looked pretty good. We got Melvin Gordon, of course, gone. Chase Edmonds is now on IR. So I guess he's the guy if you care about that.
Yeah, exactly. This is similar to the other guys you're talking about. It's like it wasn't huge statistics, but 49 of 60 snaps. Like, very rare that we have these every down backs, and we just had 3 of them today. So hopefully it continues that way. They kept saying Marlon Mack going to be big involvement today. Nothing. So really rough there. Other than that, in terms of 4 p.m. guys, we saw Jacobs. We already talked about complete animal, the stud of the week. But James Conner having himself a nice day against the Chargers. Ultimately finished with, I just pulled up the box scores here, 118 yards on 25 carries. Keontae Ingram saw 2 carries. That was the only other back to even step on the field. I'm pretty sure it was about 97% of the snaps went to Conner, at least by the eyeball test. He also caught a touchdown, 20 yards on 3 catches. Yeah. He's just back into that locked-in RB1 mode, which is good to see there. In terms of the Chiefs, it's also nice to see Pacheco getting 22 carries, 69 yards, wasn't overly efficient, but he did get the red zone work even with Ronald Jones activated. Yeah. Pacheco was the guy at the stripe. He converted 1 touchdown, probably should have had 2, but good to see Pacheco having that involvement, maintaining it. In terms of the Rams backfield from 4 o'clock, 11 carries to Kyron compared to 8 for Cam Akers. He was definitely Kyron, the preferred guy in those situations. 2 down, 2-minute offense, 3rd down. He had 3 catches for 25 yards as well. Definitely, I don't have the final snap counts quite yet, but I'd say it was probably 60-65% Kyron just by eyeballing it. And then
I reserve the right, by the way, for the rest of the season. Every show we do, every Sunday recap show we do, when we got a few left before the end of the year, I reserve the right to say at least one time, can you fucking believe how bad the Rams are?
Say it every single time. They're horrible.
I'm just going to I'm just like, my name's Nat the Truth Jones. Can you believe how fucking bad the Rams are? They are so terrible.
So abysmal. The last backfield note that I had from across these was Christian McCaffrey, 11 carries, 32 yards. Oh,
that's about what he's been averaging a carry since he's been with them, right? Isn't he like a 3-yard carry guy? Yeah, kind of makes you wish Jeff Wilson was back, huh?
He had that huge monster, caught one threw one and then ran one in day. Ever since then, it's been really, really mediocre. Mitchell did get hurt, so maybe the path will be clear. But even after that, Jordan Mason got 4 carries and was mixing in a bunch. So I don't know what this is with McCaffrey. He's still obviously a running back 1, but he's definitely not on that like level with Eckler, with the clear cut, the Jacobs. I'd rather have Josh Jacobs probably at this point than Christian McCaffrey.
Of course you would.
Which is nuts, which is absolutely nuts. But man, yeah, it's just disappointing. 4 catches, 17 yards, really inefficient, not a ton of work. I don't know what's going on there, but definitely a down for me, a negative for the running back position. Wide receivers.
Speaking wide receiver, do you want to talk about horrible running backs? Because I got a few horrible running backs we can talk about.
We do have a few more bad ones. You're right.
Real quick, I'll just rattle off some horrible running back stat lines for you. Dameon Pierce, 5 rushes for 8 yards, but he did add 3 catches for another 8 yards.
14 carries for 15 yards across his last 2 games. How bad is that?
Well, it's over a yard a carry. Kareem Hunt, in contrast to how good Nick Chubb was, Kareem Hunt was pretty much unplayed. We had like 15 yards. He had like 3 fantasy points. I don't have his exact stat line in front of me, but it was atrocious. And I did not see this guy's final stat line, but when I stopped watching the game to come down and do this, Alvin Kamara, if we had a dud of the week, it might be him.
7 for 13 on the ground.
Yeah. And he fumbled. Don't forget,
as well.
He also fumbled.
6 catches for a whopping 37. No scores. Man, he's awful. He sucks this year. I mean, it's bad. He just doesn't.
Yeah, I'm glad I landed him on both of my teams.
I know. I was so convinced on him. He's just not the same player anymore, right? Like, is it an injury? I don't know what it is.
I don't know if it's him or the team or both.
It's a mix.
I don't know, but I mean, I hate that he's in my lineup every week.
Yeah, he's brutal. Your second rounder. Ugh.
Yeah. All right, so we talked. Well, let's go wide receivers. We talked about a few of these guys, but a guy we hadn't mentioned yet is T. Higgins. 7 catches on 9 targets for $114 and a touchdown. He's really good, man.
He's just an alpha. Yeah, no Jamar Chase, no problem. He shoulders the offense, as we all knew he could. DJ Moore, as we mentioned, 103 yards and a touchdown. He's legit good with literally anyone other than Baker Mayfield. He's that good. So it's great to see him. 64 of the 66 snaps, running all the routes, 6 targets. Not huge, but big day for him to just, again, reemphasize he can get it done with anybody other than Baker.
Right. Traylon Burks, I wouldn't ordinarily think that this was noteworthy, except that he's only 51% rostered, and so it is worthwhile to mention. He did have 6 targets, caught 4 of them, 70 yards, and the Titans lost to the Bengals. He's only half owned. That's a decent stat line for a guy that there's a 50-50 chance is just sitting on your waiver wire.
Yeah, he fell on a fumble in the end zone too, so he got a touchdown on the day.
Yeah.
Ultimately now setting 111 yards last week.
Probably not banking on that every week, but yeah.
No, definitely not. But still, good to see a playmaker. He ran 30 of the 35 routes, so the second most routes on the team. Good to see him as highly involved. Another 12-target day for Amari Cooper, 7 catches, 94 yards, barely missing a touchdown at the end. To be outdone by Zay Jones.
I know, right?
Target hog, 14 targets, 11 catches, 145. I feel like a prick because I forget who it is, and maybe they're tuned in right now. Feel free to send us a middle finger. But somebody asked, like, Zay Jones, or is like Zay Jones or Debo, or like Zay Jones or I think Marquise Brown, maybe.
I do remember
and
that.
Me and CJ just scoffed. We're like, no, like, come on, Zay Jones, really? And like, look at clearly this guy had some real foresight, whoever asked that one. So my apologies in advance. I forget who you were, but man, what a monster day for Zay Jones. Huge production. His best as a pro. He's good. I mean, he's a player.
Yeah, he is. And he was a much bigger player than Mike Evans, who I already mentioned. 2 catches on 9 targets, 31 yards for the terrible Buccaneers right now. Although they're not as terrible as the Rams. Also, Drake London, terrible game. Targeted 4 times, caught 2 for 29 yards. Remember when we thought he was going to be good for a little while?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player.
He's a good player, but he's doing nothing at all. Keeping with the terrible stat lines, Jahan Dotson, no catches.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin had 4 catches on 6 targets for 48 in Washington. And we kind of continue on that Washington trend. Curtis Samuel was not even targeted. He did have like a couple rushes.
It was bad. Yeah, he had 4 carries, but he's droppable at this point. No reason to hang on to Curtis Samuel. And yeah, McLaurin, it's one of those things where like you always hear McLaurin another 27% target share. When your team throws it like 8 times, 24%.
It's like, he got 2 of them.
Can only get me so hard at this point. Like, I get it. He's definitely the preferred guy for Heineke. It's just such low quality volume and such low volume too. it's a bad aerial pie. So I don't really care at this point that he has a 30% slice.
What's the equivalent of the Washington aerial pie, like as far as regular, like actual pies?
What sucks? What's like a shitty pie?
I mean, what's a bad pie?
A rhubarb pie, like
right? I mean, yeah, okay.
Broccoli, like
some sort of like vegetable pie.
Yeah, a veggie pie for sure. Tyler Boyd, very disappointing with no Jamar Chase, 4 targets, 2 catches, 16 yards, back-to-back dud weeks after last week, only 40 yards on 2 catches. Even worse this week. And Peoples-Jones, 4 targets, 2 catches.
Same exact stat line as Tyler Boyd.
Same exact shitty stat line. After he had been just a monster, so not even monster, just consistent high floor. You knew what you were getting. Really, really tough to see from him. 4 p.m. wise, I'm trying to think of like, there wasn't too much that stood out. The one thing was with the Chiefs. I feel like Juju, he was active, but was he? He had 3 targets, 38 yards.
He wasn't that active.
3 catches. Like, I don't know. Just I was expecting a whole lot more after he had 25, and 18 points before getting hurt. Seemed like he was really separating there. So this was concerning. Van Jefferson did catch a touchdown for the Rams as well, 29 yards and a score. Other than that, there's really nothing for the Saints. Olave, 62 yards, 5 catches. Not great, but gets the job done. Similar like Ayuk, 5 catches, 65. Debo, though, 3 for 43. That was pretty weak. Then 2 carries for 0 yards.
Yeah, that's pretty weak.
Pretty weak.
Remember, we said like we would sell Debo when he came back. I mean, so far that is borne out to be true. I would say
100%. We were not really big on him, anyways. And last but not,
and again, I always have to say this: I love Debo, but it didn't seem like he was going to put up the numbers for the price he went for in your auctions and stuff like that.
Right.
No good.
Did you catch how many receptions DK Metcalf had today?
No, how many?
11. Target hog, baby.
Really?
Yes, 11.
Guys, I love.
Yes. So you just love to see that type of usage for an absolute monster. He only put up 90 yards on him, but still though. They were big body catches too. Just give me the ball. I'm going to convert these first downs for you. He had a great day. 11 for 90 and Lockett as well, 68 for a touchdown. So Not a bad day for the boys at the office there.
All right, tight ends. Low bar for solid tight end performances today. Although you did text me at one point and say, when am I going to realize I need to take Kelsey number 1 overall?
Seriously.
You want to start with him?
I mean, I think he only ended up with 16 a touchdown, which for only – but at tight end, it's true.
Yeah, but that's a better stat line than anybody else on this list.
If you put him at receiver, he'd be 3rd in terms of overall fantasy points at the hardest position to find anything. Every year it ends – I put Kelsey at number 1 on my big board at the end of the season.
Then you talk your way out of it because you're like, that's ridiculous.
I can't. Yeah, exactly. I never can end up pulling the trigger. And then by the end of the year, I'm always like, why the hell do I not just have Kelsey on every single one of my teams?
Set your watch. You can set your clock to you're texting me sometime in week 12 being like, why didn't I follow through?
I'm right here. Siri, remind me on June 20th, 2023 to take Travis Kelsey 1st overall.
Right. Siri's going to who knows what Siri heard there. Who knows what reminder you're going to get.
Take Travis Kelsey 1st overall. There we go.
Okay.
All righty.
All right. Well, compare that to the other stat lines that were positive. Hayden Hurst targeted 9 times, caught 6, 57 yards, whatever. With Chase out, maybe he's going to see like a slightly higher bulk of the targets until that changes. And also David Njoku was targeted 8 times, 5 catches, 29 yards, and a touchdown. Played the lion's share of the snaps, of course. But, Kelsey had a better stat line than either of those guys.
I know. It was rough. Otherwise, on the only real big tight end games came on Thanksgiving where Dalton Schultz had a big one. Hunter Henry was the
Hawkinson was pretty good, too.
Foster Moreau did score today. 39% rostered, just the fill-in for Darren Waller. He's been okay, finding the end zone twice in his last 3 weeks. So he's okay. But, Jordan Akins was the next highest tight end. So it really was just a really, really bad tight end day here. The next closest was Tyler Conklin with 6.5. Idiot. Just a hideous day for the tight end position. So that's, again, why Travis Kelsey should be going number 1 overall. The worst of the worst for tight end. Cole Kmet, 3 for 27. Not even quite as bad as Mike Gesicki without a catch on his only target. And Greg Dulcich, I keep telling you guys, I'm done with him. Cut him. No reason to have him. Hopefully you finally listen. 2 catches, 11 yards. Just a disgusting day for him. All righty.
We did have a few notable injuries, and then we'll get into the early waiver wire. Travis Etienne had, I think he maybe had 2 carries for 3 yards, and then he had a foot injury, and he never came back. So hope he's okay.
Yeah, they did tweet out our friend of the pod, John Shipley. He came on in the summer to chat Jags with us.
Yep.
He did say when he asked Travis Etienne after the game how he was feeling, he said, we'll be straight for next week. So it does sound like it's nothing overly serious. We'll talk about JaMycal Hasty, though, coming in and putting up some nice numbers in his absence. Chase Claypool did leave the Bears Week 12 game against the Jets. He's having himself actually a pretty good day. 5 targets. I believe he hauled all of them up, was going up, and 2 of 5 catches for 51 yards, but making some big boy catches. The big injury that might have some waiver wire takeaways we'll dive into a little deeper in a bit, but Michael Carter ankle left the game, did not come back. In the backfield, surprisingly, got turned over to Zonovan Knight, a rookie. We'll talk about him in the waiver wire in just a little bit.
Elijah Mitchell exited Week 12 against the Saints with a knee injury, and he did not come back. He did get put up to questionable, but then never came back after that. And unfortunately, we've just seen that too many times in Elijah Mitchell's career because we both really like him as a talent. We think he plays super hard, but man, he just does not seem to stay healthy.
He doesn't. He had that nice touchdown that got called back too.
Yep.
Looking like he just right as he gets going, boom, another injury to the guy. Poor, as you said, plays too hard almost, like too hard is how he plays. Darnell Mooney left the game. He had to get helped off. He could not put any weight on his ankle. Did not look good. Did not show a good rapport with Simeon before leaving either. Jeff Wilson, did you see that play? It was so weird when they were dragging, like Tyreek was like dragging him off. And then he ended up coming back in the game. So I don't know if it was cramps. He seemed like he was laughing while it was happening. Weird stuff.
That was odd. Yeah.
I was just uncomfortable the whole time watching that. I had no idea what was going on.
I was also uncomfortable. Also, the Dolphins left tackle Terran Armstead has a pec strain and is going to miss some time.
Yeah, that's brutal. And the right tackle Tristan Wirfs is also going to be out for the Bucs. So that was tough.
Definitely my favorite story is not really injury related, although kind of emerging in and out of consciousness, I guess, is an injury. It could be.
I didn't know where else to put this.
But unfortunately, this didn't happen on the field. It was on a plane. He was asked to leave, and that, of course, is Odell Beckham managing to stay in the news. He was kicked off a flight from Miami to L.A., and, you read the story. It's pretty weird.
Very strange story. Who knows what's going on? He's supposedly visiting the Cowboys and the Giants this week, plus a visit with the Bills scheduled for the weekend. So I keep preaching, hold on to him. He's such an elite talent. But when shit like this is happening, it's getting harder and harder to reserve the bench space for him. I'm going to give it another 2 weeks. And then if by the fantasy playoffs, he still hasn't signed, like he was supposed to be back and active by now. It's getting really, really
kind of like Antonio Brown's story.
A little bit there.
I mean, not quite. Maybe not quite as bad, but just like it's weird. Like it doesn't happen to what if something like this happened to say Cooper Kupp? You would be like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. With OBJ, you're like, it's just kind of weird.
Matthew Stafford just dragging him out of too many eggs, just like
I know, right?
Who knows? Too many eggs. What the fuck?
Too many glasses of milk.
Too many glasses of milk. Alrighty, let's hit the early week waiver wire. The guy who's my number one pickup last week, and just as a reminder, I'll go more in depth into all of this on Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. But this is just our rapid reaction waiver wire guys that seem to pop and are out there in over 50% of the leagues. And quick thumbs up button if you enjoy the content while you hear it. Would be so greatly appreciated. But Treylon Burks, 51% rostered. Last call on him. As mentioned, 70 yards, 4 catches. He fell on a fumble as well from Derrick Henry on a 69-yard catch by him. But just a playmaker, running the most routes he's run yet, second most on the team. So he's emerging as a near every down player. And similar to Christian Watson, all we need is a shot for some of these talented rookies. They finally get it. They sometimes will often blow up down the stretch, and their schedule is not too shabby down the stretch. Tough matchup with the Eagles next week, but after that, it's looking pretty green. So I like Treylon Burks, would probably again be the number one pickup this week.
And the aforementioned Zay Jones, only 24% owned. Made you guys eat a little bit of crow. Caught 11 out of 14 targets for $145. I mean, if that's any sort of even remotely typical game for this guy, you should pick him up immediately.
This is his 4th time seeing double-digit targets. That kind of blew my mind. He's had 11, 10, 10, and now 14 target days on the year, mixing a handful of 9 and 8 target days. It's not like this came out of completely nowhere. Zay Jones has been really involved. This was obviously his best game of the season and his career, though. So good to see him. And if Trevor Lawrence is truly taking that next step, some of those throws to Zay Jones in particular were some next-level, chemistry level throws. We also talked about Mike White and how he was probably the biggest overall storyline, how much he's going to unlock for these Jets especially Garrett Wilson. But he himself, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. Remember, last year he had a 400-yard, 4-touchdown day. The guy just is competent at minimum, but I think it's a really good scheme when anybody else has been in there other than Zach Wilson. They put up pretty big numbers. So I really like Mike White as a potential streamer down the stretch. A very easy schedule, too, for the Jets moving forward here. So big news for all their receivers. It also includes Elijah Moore, too. He's only 23% rostered at this point. He had 64 yards and a touchdown. All he might need is a QB to unlock him and get back to, after leading the team in yards and touchdowns last year, he could be right back there. So good to see Mike White bringing this level.
You might as well continue with the Jets theme and talk about their backfield because you got a couple guys in there also. So
true.
What do you think about them?
Yeah, so Michael Carter did get hurt. We'll see how serious it is. It's an ankle injury. Unclear yet what the severity is. But the big thing there was James Robinson was a healthy scratch today. And obviously we'd think he'd be the next man up. But that suggests he's no higher than 4th on the depth chart. So looking at where did the carries go, what happened in his stead, Ty Johnson did maintain that 3rd down back roll. He had an explosive run, too. So 5 carries, 62 yards and a score. He's 1% rostered and definitely looks like he'll be involved with a quarterback that loves to pepper his running backs. But the other guy, the one that was really surprising, was Zonovan Knight getting 14 carries.
0% owned, folks.
0% rostered. Now getting 69 yards on the ground. Had 3 catches for 34 yards. Nobody even really knew that who this guy was, but he was active ahead of James Robinson. And in his first ever action, I mean, he was looking pretty damn good every time he touched the rock. I was like, damn, this kid actually looks really solid. So Knight might be the guy that you end up going after. Definitely think you want to check out Ty Johnson, though, for the receiving upside. And then maybe James Robinson does reemerge here. But again, Ty Johnson, 10 of 11, 3rd down snaps. Zonovan Knight, though, was in for 30 snaps after Michael Carter left. 30 of the, I believe it was 45 snaps without Michael Carter on the field. So that's no joke. Over half the snaps went to him. So keep Zonovan Knight as somebody in your waiver wire radar for sure.
A guy that has been up and down like crazy, we had extremely high hopes for, Isaiah McKenzie. He's 33% owned.
Yeah.
Had a great Thanksgiving, 6 catches, 10 targets, 96 yards, and a touchdown, all while sitting on my bench because why the hell would you play him?
I don't think anybody that had him would have played him. But because the week before, he was a 40% snap player. This week, he was right close to 75. So if we just knew he was going to be a 75% snap player each and every week, now we could feel comfortable starting him. I still, even after this blow up, have my hesitancy, but I certainly think
the Bills are weird, man.
They are weird. Like, they're explosive, and yet they suck sometimes, too.
Allen has been underthrowing, like, balls, like, a lot. It's like, I don't know. He's great, obviously. He's fun to pull for, but he has been a little off target a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last 2 waiver guys we have down here, Van Jefferson, 23% roster, 3 catches, 29 yards, and a touchdown. There's injuries all around him, but it looks like he might be the number 1 receiver. Don't be shocked if they shut down. We already know Cooper Kupp unlikely to come back. Maybe even Allen Robinson. They're probably like, why even bother with this guy? So maybe Van emerges as the number 1 weapon there down the stretch. And then Josh Kelly didn't do much, but was back, made a healthy scratch out of Sony Michel, was playing again ahead of Isaiah Spiller. So if we're looking for that handcuff, that valuable guy, that if something happens to a man, Austin Eckler, just absolutely love the guy. But if something happens, we saw Justin Jackson be the running back 1 last year in fill-in duty. It seems like Josh Kelly is right back into that clear-cut number 2 role. So he warrants some more waiver wire consideration as well.
Great job, man. We rolled right through that. That was
there we go.
That was
Fast
good.
show. I know.
That was solid, man.
And here we go.
Like,
getting all the way through it. So yeah, Truth. I know you said you got to get.
No,
running,
let's. It's a small mailbag. So let's just do it. Although we do have to talk to Dave, of course.
Oh yeah, we got our Colin, as always, the legend himself, Mr. Campanelli. How we doing, brothers?
I'm all right. How are you guys doing?
What's up?
Very good. Very good.
So I am pitching the idea after speaking to CJ all day. He needs his own spinoff of soccer. We need a CJ soccer podcast.
I'm all about it.
The next venture of Roto Street after we launch you to the moon. That's the next venture.
I would host that with him. I'm a big soccer fan. Also.
I would go nuts with Premier League, and if you get into the fantasy part of it, holy crap. I think
I love Premier League.
Awesome.
Deal.
So
let the boys go.
The question I have is Truth.
Yeah.
We need an honest answer.
Okay.
Was it over under 12.5 beers?
It was way under. It was like it was like 7 or 8.
You cost us all so much money.
I know the big board in Vegas was lighting up.
Vegas is laughing at us all right now.
The problem is, and this is kind of like, you know, really getting deep into the weeds on some of these, like, you know, quarterback stats, like between day and night games or Monday night or whatever. Well, you know, the more you know me, I don't usually drink during the day. It's usually not till my kids are in bed. So I'm dealing with a semi-limited window. Like if I were starting at noon, I probably would have smashed it, but I probably started at like 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's late.
The Wolfpack just all paid for Wolf's wedding, basically. So
we had some great super chats today. Oh yeah,
thanks, Truth.
Yeah, of course.
Keep it up, guys. Thank you. Have a great one. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Launch it to the moon. Let's go, boys.
You're a legend, Campanelli. Thanks for calling in, as always, brother. I know it's funny because I was like, if Truth was doing the show with me right now on Thanksgiving, I was like, I guarantee he smashes the over because I get him to crack one.
No, I would have.
Then it's flowing and Truth goes nuts. But I that's what I said. I thought the under might be the smart play, given that you might be starting off a little bit lower.
Right. I had to start. I started really late. I was like, my wife was at this run. You know, I wasn't like where I needed to be, and then I had to like help her like with food and stuff. I just wasn't able to get tanked all day long, but I did enjoy getting a little.
I was gonna say, it tastes good.
Yeah, it did. But now I'm back off again for another month. So
really, just one day, and now you're off.
No. I went several days over the break. But now I'm gonna ride it till Christmas break. So about 27, 28 days off. I'm trying to shed those last few pounds.
There you go. I respect it.
All right, appreciate it. Tunes, he's up 133 and change to 131 and change. He's got JT. I have Watson and Pickens. He said someone smacked the phone.
Oh, it's Kiddo, yeah. Smacking the phone out of his hand. Man, that's going to be a close battle. It's only a 2-point lead. You know me. I love my Christian Watson, but he could disappear at any moment, as could Pickens, the rookie receivers. So that's the risk with him. But if I had to bet on it, I would bet on you and those two outscoring JT with the 2-point lead as well for you.
Yep.
But it's gonna come down to the wire. That's gonna be a good one. So best of luck, Tunes.
Yeah, man. Pulling for you. Krista, man, up 40 points. Both of us have one player to go. Aaron Jones versus Devontae Smith. Thanks, RSJ, for the advice and conversations. Yeah, you're going to win that one.
I like your spot a lot, Kristen. Well done for sure.
Rushing yard won by 1 point. Great job, buddy.
That's the good card. Rushing yard was.
He elaborates on that a little later, so we'll get to him.
Awesome rushing yard. I'm so pumped to hear that, though. But that's the good karma. You were answering questions for people all day in the chat, and there it is. I love to see it. You got the win.
TMC killed me.
Yeah, maybe the dud of the week. It's just a weird role, and he does not look that good. I don't know.
I know. Chris Genova, I got Hurts, Jones, and Campbell in my line of projected win by 2. You guys think I should keep Paris Campbell in or out? And Christian Watson, unfortunately, is probably past kickoff now.
Yeah, if it's already I'm sorry, Chris. Wish I had seen this one. We should have said at the top, we don't typically get the sit starts for Sunday unless you get us a super chat, not to force you guys to pass. It's just we have a lot to recap. And then, it's typically by kickoff. It's already gone off. So my fault, Chris. I probably, just to give you the honest advice, would have said go Christian Watson. The safer play is Campbell. He definitely has a sure target share. But I like the upside of Christian Watson myself. I would have said him. What about you, Truth?
I also would have definitely gone Christian Watson.
Yeah, it's been a big day for rookie receivers. I want to kind of keep riding that.
5-game win streak. Teams 8-4. Tua, Chubb, Henry, Cook, Hopkins, CD, Schultz, benches, Murray, Burks, Collins. How should I be feeling? Well, as a guy who's like 3-8 in one of my leagues, I'd feel pretty good being 8-4.
I think it's 8-4. It's a good roster, top to bottom. Nice upside bench options there. Caden, the Colts fan, looking pretty solid. I like it. New fan out there too. So reminder, anybody new out there, if you enjoy what you're hearing, please do consider not only liking, but also subbing, coming back for more. We answer your questions 4 times a week. Love chatting ball with you guys.
Jacob's got Tim up to 185 points. Great job.
Tim was very active today. Love to see that, Tim. Monster day for the squad.
What's up, boys? Big W today from Denny Jennings, Philly's own. Let's go, Birds.
Big game for the Birds tonight.
Daniel Holland traded JT for Jacobs weeks ago. Loving the payoff. That's awesome, dude.
I know. Now that even JT's rolling, Jacobs is still like, no, JT's going to look good, but I'm still going to be better. Man, he's an absolute monster. I remember when you made that deal, Howland.
Robert Moreno snatched Moore off the waiver wire this morning after putting Rondell Moore on my IR. Once Rondell comes back, which Moore as a keeper? Is it too early to say?
I think it's too early to say, Robert, but definitely good to see Elijah Moore. Best day of the year with a good quarterback change. could definitely see him continue to take off. My guess is Rondale will be the more valuable one, but if we see a couple weeks in a row here with Elijah going off, definitely worth noting. I love the talent. It's just a matter of who's around him.
Magic Mike with Elijah Mitchell getting hurt again. Would you recommend dropping him and maybe stashing a handcuff running back like Gainwell or Deion Jackson? Keep up the great work, fellas. Thanks.
It's so tough to know because it was a knee injury. He didn't come back. But if it's just like a 1 week thing, I'd rather have Eli Mitchell. And it's not like Gainwell or Jackson are that.
Yeah, neither one of them moves the needle for me. So if you're talking about those guys specifically, I'd rather have Mitchell, I think.
Yeah, I'd wait it out and just see the news. And then obviously if something happens with Mitchell, yeah, you cut him. But I don't think either of those guys are worth jumping on right now.
Roth Tiberius Kane, my favorite name that follows us. Need Watson to go off tonight. Come on, Christian. That's right.
I want Christian too. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Kyrie says up 125, 119. He has the Philly kicker and defense to have a chance. You're probably in trouble. Dude.
That's not good. I mean, if they're all touchdowns and then Rodgers.
Yeah, but also they need to get lit up. I mean, like Aaron Rodgers needs to throw like 400 yards.
I have no faith in that.
And he's got a like fractured thumb or something.
Yeah, you're going to need the kicker to get hurt and like Rodgers to have a big day. You don't have much of a chance, Kyrie. I hope so. Great.
No, sorry, bud. Pulling for you. But yeah, 6 points combined for a defense and a kicker. That's not a tall ask. I think you're screwed. But best of luck. I hope you get it. Jones started Olave, Palmer, and Kamara over DJ Moore and Garrett Wilson. I'm sorry to hear that, bud.
Oh, boy. I mean, I would have done all of them, and you might have I don't remember seeing this morning, Doug, but if it makes you feel any better, I would have played all three of those guys over the other two. I wasn't even thinking about DJ Moore. I was actually higher on Garrett Wilson than most. I had him +7 ECR this week. So he was on the radar, and I still would have recommended any of those three ahead of him. So, yeah.
Giuseppe says, typical Job Henderson, Etienne gets hurt. I don't care. I have Barkley, Kamara, Stevenson, and White, 9 and 3, baby. Except for Kamara, I think that's great.
Yes.
Rushing yard, won by 1 point thanks to you guys this week by saying Olave over Marquise Brown. Olave at 11, Brown had 10. That's awesome, dude.
It came down to the wire. I love when it comes through in rushing yard. You're an absolute legend. Great to see.
Like the video, guys. Nice.
Yes.
Daniel says, I know it's early, but are we playing Watson his first week back? Other QB options are Cousins versus the Jets or Jimmy G versus Miami.
I feel like I might go Watson against his old team, against Houston. Maybe he just goes and destroys them. We'll figure it out next week. But Jimmy G against Miami intrigues me a bit too, just because they could turn that into a track meet, and he's got all the weapons that he needs. So that could be interesting.
Wolf, too late. Wolf, quick. Alan Lazard tonight or Paris Campbell tomorrow. I'm up 16.
J-Mo, sorry I missed it. I would have probably gone Alan Lazard, but I mean, I don't love either. But
yeah, I don't either. Game time, crack, nice.
Nobody likes the sound of the cracking beer can better than Denny, and I love it.
We already answered this one.
Oh, yeah. Not much of a chance.
Robert Moreno loves his Premier League. We should talk sometime. I've been watching a ton of it this year, and it's made the World Cup a lot more fun because I know so many of the players now.
Yeah, you and CJ can chat that all day. I have zero interest. I'd be happy to listen.
It's one of the sports that I can watch with my wife, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
She really enjoys it, and so that counts for a lot. Like she would rather die than watch an NFL game with me.
Wow.
Sarah Riley, should we be concerned with the Etienne injury? Whatever happened with Jeff Wilson? We don't know as far as Jeff Wilson goes. It was weird as hell. Etienne says he's going to be ready to go next week. So
so I wouldn't be overly worried. I don't think we even covered him in the waiver wire, but I do think JaMycal Hasty should be considered as a pickup as well, just in case. He had 92 yards, a touchdown, +7 catches on the day. So workhorse JaMycal Hasty. If there is no Etienne for any time, it seemed like he's the clear-cut handcuff here.
Danny Jennings, my over-under is 15.5. I'm already 4 in and a shot of tequila. Pulling for you.
For the Eagles game?
Oh, it's an Eagles game. He's going to at least 2 drinks a quarter, I would say, for Denny.
I love that Christian helping answer out Jack's questions, but you knew we were a little bit tied up before we could get there. So hopefully you did see that. I would have gone Lazard over Campbell, but it is close too.
And I blame CMC.
Other people blaming CMC, and I have no bailout. I don't know what the hell happened there.
Is Rashad White a must start going forward? Also, I lost scored 155. Must start. Man. That's maybe a bit much, but I mean, while he's the starting running back, I mean, it depends what your options are. He's a reasonable start, definitely.
Yeah, especially when Fournette comes back, it'll be a little interesting to see. But as long as Fournette's out, again, 62 of 69 snaps, that's no joke and a good off. Like I know that it's been an underwhelming offense, but it's still one of the top half in the league, especially in terms of running back volume and the way Brady uses them in the pass game. So I think he's absolutely a must start going forward. Anytime Fournette's out, we'll have to wait and see. And how involved are that? How much of a split is it? But definitely an every down bell cow when he's out. Definitely in my lineups moving forward.
Last but not least, 2 thumbs up on the Truths. Alcohol willpower. Impressive. Thank you.
It is impressive.
Appreciate it.
I'll give you some. I'm impressed. I wish I had that willpower. One of these days, I'll take a month off and see how it feels. But
it was pretty easy after the first couple days, but then when I started getting close to when I knew I was allowed to drink again, then like the last couple days were really tough.
Yeah.
The middle 40 weren't too bad.
The last 3 were just a sweat.
That was tough, man. The last 3, because I was like, I should just stop a day early and just drink it until I pass out,
Exactly. Oh man,
I did drop 12 pounds not drinking for 45 days.
That's pretty good, man. That's good shit. That's nice.
It wasn't too bad. So I'm hoping that'll continue.
I could stand to lose 20. So yeah, maybe I need to try this out.
Yeah, I could stand to lose another 12 probably.
Oh man, well, good stuff, guys. You can find all of our content, recap, coverage, and moving forward rankings, all that good stuff at rotostreetjournal.com is where we breed and feed you fancy wolves. If you prefer podcasts, this will be a podcast. Maybe you're listening to the podcast right now. Ratings and reviews are so helpful, though, to help us grow on iTunes, on YouTube, everywhere. Would be so appreciated. Like and sub on your way out, Wolfpack. It would be the best and so greatly appreciated. In a world full of fancy sheep, be the wolf, guys. Later.